Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. And honestly, today I'm kind of excited to take a little bit of a break from these hour-long marathons delivering training camp news. That's finally slowing down, but we do have two huge stories coming out yesterday. Brandon Aiyuk trade heating up. Jordan Addison, there's an update on his looming suspension and legal troubles, I guess we could call it. And some unofficial depth charts have come out as well. So we'll take a look at that, but they really don't mean much, spoiler alert. But we'll still at least look at it because why not? But anyway, NFL news coming up. Go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, I know I said we're not going to do too many training camp things today, but I did see a really fun Tyreek Hill highlight, and who doesn't love a good Tyreek Hill highlight? I mean, who doesn't like a good Tyreek Hill highlight? So I'm just going to play that before we get into the news, just to set the tone. Here we go. Check this out. Tua absolutely spinning it to Tyreek Hill. Just incredible placement, really. Just really, really incredible placement. This is just the stuff we love from Tyreek Hill. Just dropped in a bucket, splitting right, kind of going around these two defenders, and then able to kind of get it. I know it's like low, but not low at the same time. Good stuff. Just love seeing that play. Who doesn't like a good Tyreek Hill highlight on a Tuesday morning? I know I do. So felt like I should share it with you guys. Hope you liked that highlight. I don't know. Just thought it was fun. But yeah, that's it. That's it. Oh, hey. Go Gin has some black coffee and enjoying it. Rare over here. Enjoy your black coffee. I'm getting there someday. I am getting there someday. For now, we're still just drinking very creamed coffee. But anyway, good morning to you, Donald, Mark, Bach, Liv, Sarcasm, Theo. Hey, Theo in the chat. Terminal Sarcasm, Bach, Snowman, Big Country, Donald, Nick Take J, Go Gin, Dakota, the plumber. Good morning to you all. Good morning to you all. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Actually, before we jump into it, Ryan Flournoy. Ryan Flournoy is back at camp. Pads on, playing. There's highlights out there. Go check out Twitter. They're not highlights, but there's clips of him catching passes. So he's back. So we'll continue to update that. Anyway, Brandon Aiyuk. Lemon juice black coffee. I've never heard of that. That is very interesting. I'm going to try it. I will try it. In fact, Liv, I've right now put it on my show sheet for tomorrow. Live drinking black coffee with lemon juice. I don't know if you're pulling my leg, but I've just added it to my show sheet. Here we go. I'll show you that I've added it to my show sheet just so you know. I have a little off-topic section that I add things for every once in a while. So there we go. Tomorrow, make sure you tune in. We're putting lemon juice in black coffee. Hey, if that doesn't get you to tune in, I don't know what will. Anyway, this Brandon Aiyuk situation, it sucks. You guys know this. Every time I talk about it, I get exhausted. I've been saying that I'm tired of talking about it. I want some sort of damn conclusion. And you would think after everything that was going on yesterday, there would be some conclusion. We had Pretty Ricky, everyone's favorite Nostradamus as of late, saying that it is almost a done, or it was really a done deal that he's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a picture circulating that Brandon Aiyuk was walking to the Steelers stadium yesterday. None of that was real, as it seems. At least we don't. It's all so bullshit, really. We don't know anything. Even Adam Schefter doesn't know anything. No one knows anything. But we're still going to try our best to dissect this situation because we've got to. We've got to dissect this situation. Adam Schefter tweets out this morning, the San Francisco 49ers are now willing to listen to trade offers for Brandon Aiyuk and have given the star wide receiver permission to negotiate a contract with other teams. Yesterday, the 49ers, specifically NBC Sports, like Twitter, I guess, the 49ers NBC. The 49ers have the framework of a Brandon Aiyuk trade with both the Browns and the Patriots, a source has told Mayoko of NBC Sports. Now it's up to Aiyuk to decide if he will accept either team's contract terms. That it does link an article in that tweet as well. And it does say that the Commanders removed themselves from trade talks and the Steelers are effectively no longer an option after they declined to meet the 49ers trade demands. So this is what it's looking like. This is the way I'm wrapping my head around this situation. Yesterday, a deal was made with the Steelers and the 49ers, and then something happened. Whether it was the 49ers decided to ask for a little bit more and the Steelers backed out, or Aiyuk did it like what? Maybe that was a picture of Aiyuk walking there, and then negotiated and realized, they're not actually giving me the money I want. I don't know. Either way, it seems the Steelers deal has fallen through. This article does continue that the Browns and Patriots have given their best offers to Aiyuk's camp while also presenting trade proposals that the 49ers have accepted. The 49ers likely would acquire a veteran wide receiver and a package of draft picks from the Browns or the Patriots. The Browns would be in position to add Aiyuk if Amari Cooper were sent to the 49ers, and the Patriots would be a part of it if they were to probably send Kendrick Bourne. At least that is, of course, the guess. Again, no one knows anything. No one knows anything. Even if you go look at Adam Schefter's Twitter, he's basically saying he knows anything and goes on to just talk about how complicated of a situation this thing really, really is. Because basically, I'll summarize the tweet. This is not a simple trade to execute. Any interested team would have to meet the asking price of Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers. It's easy to meet one of those conditions, but it's more complicated to meet both. So far, no one's been able to do it. Because think about it. If you're to trade draft picks, you're also having to give Aiyuk a massive contract because at the end of the day, that's what he's looking for. So it is a massive, massive undertaking for any team to bring in this guy, especially this late into training camp. And so it's really not in any team's interest to do this. I'm gonna be blunt about it. Any team, even if you're wide receiver needy, the cost to get Brandon Aiyuk seems considerably high. It seems that it starts at a first-round draft pick, and you don't want to do that, especially if you're the New England Patriots, right? That first-round draft pick could be the number 1 overall pick. I don't know what wide receiver is worth that, not named Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. And even then, some teams might still want more than just those wide receivers for the number 1 overall pick. So if I'm the Patriots, I'm probably not doing it. Maybe a few seconds or a first 2 years from now or something. We don't know. Again, we have no idea. The one trade that does seem interesting to me is this Amari Cooper plus. Now, they're still going to have to add a draft pick, but I don't think the Browns are obviously in like number 1 overall potential, like kind of area to do this, right? Like the Browns giving up their first round pick is more than likely just a middle first. And I believe the Browns do have the cap room. Let me double check that though. Yeah, I mean, they've got about $30 million, so they can make things meet. They've got $29.6 million right now in cap space, the Cleveland Browns do. So if they trade an Amari Cooper and a first for Brandon Aiyuk, that is something I could wrap my head around a little bit more than Kendrick Bourne, a first and a second, probably. That is what the Patriots would have to give for Brandon Aiyuk, or like 2 seconds. I don't know. There's no trade packages coming out here. I'm talking out my ass because this is just such a complicated situation. But the way I'm wrapping my head around it is if the two teams going after right now are the Browns and the Patriots, the one that makes the most sense to me is the Browns. The 49ers are in a position to compete this year. And that's why I still believe that, honestly, Brandon Aiyuk is a San Francisco 49er. I'm not really going off of that until something happens, and I'll just take the L. But the realistic and the most expected outcome should be Brandon Aiyuk returning to San Francisco. They still technically own the contract for him, and they're competing, right? They want to keep the band together as much as possible this year. The only leverage Brandon Aiyuk has is the whole locker room conundrum, right? Like, how, if you're a competing team, do you really want a negative locker room presence? And then the San Francisco 49ers, if they say no to that question, then they're like, well, would Brandon actually be a negative locker room presence once the games start? And that's what they're battling with. And it's just such a messy situation. And it's clear that no one knows what's going on. And so I'm just trying my best. Sorry that I'm all over the place. I don't know. Because it doesn't make any sense. And there's just been so many developments on this thing. Like, do you remember a few months ago? Not even a few months ago. I think a couple months ago. Brandon Aiyuk was just watching Commanders practice film somehow, and then like had all the Jaden Daniels things. Like how many different developments are going to be in this story before something of substance actually happens? Because tweets saying that things are about to happen aren't substance. That's not news. Those are just rumors that are being circulated for no damn reason. Again, the San Francisco 49ers still have Brandon Aiyuk under contract. They have all of the negotiation power, and they want him on the team because they're a Super Bowl contender. But that's why I say if any of these teams between the Patriots and the Browns are to get something done, I would lean towards the Browns because Amari Cooper is an awesome get. Yes, he's older, but he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down at all. And also, the Browns, say what you want about being a pretty bad team. The defense was pretty damn good last year. Joe Flacco got the team going. If Deshaun Watson takes even half a step, well, he has to take like 2 full steps even, actually. If Deshaun Watson takes 2 steps forward, it's a pretty damn good team. And Brandon Aiyuk could help it, especially with just the youth. And I mean, you see from Amari Cooper last year, a really, really decent season, even some spike weeks towards the end of the year. So obviously that's a player that the 49ers are happy having. 1,250 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns last year, and led in a number of efficiency metrics as well. Number 3 in yards per reception, which is incredible. He had a really high target rate versus man coverage, which is, of course, what they use Brandon Aiyuk for. So an Amari Cooper plus package for Brandon Aiyuk makes some semblance of sense for the 49ers. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. And, you know, I'm also going to say this. Amari Cooper feels like a 49er. Like, if he spends the rest of his career in San Francisco, that just feels like an Amari Cooper career arc to me. It just feels right. Like, when you hear Amari Cooper 49er, it kind of has a nice ring to it. Now, again, I still believe that he's going back to the 49ers. Just again, they own him under contract. They're competing. And Brandon Aiyuk probably wants to compete as well. I think the deal here is, again, I don't think things have really changed. I really think they keep the band together this year and someone's gone next year. I might change my take from it being Deebo Samuel next year to Brandon Aiyuk next year, as it clearly seems Brandon Aiyuk does not want to be a part of this team. That seems clear at this point. Maybe both Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel are gone next year. Like, that's the situation here again. Like, next year, they have a really easy way to get out of Deebo Samuel's contract, and they have a really, really easy way to get out of Brandon Aiyuk, whether it be by releasing or trading him for even less. So it just makes more sense for it to happen next year. That I still there hasn't been enough of an update. There hasn't been enough of an update for it to be like, okay, they're definitely being traded. Now, of course, we have the stuff that says that, you know, now, of course, I mentioned at the top that Adam Schefter is enabling him to negotiate with other teams, you know, that they're now willing to listen to trade offers. But I think that could just as much be the San Francisco 49ers being able to tell Brandon, we tried. We listened to trade offers. We didn't get what we wanted. You were able to try as well. You were able to go to these teams and see what kind of contracts they offered you. And they weren't able to meet what you wanted. So I really just think that this is let's just see what the market is. And then we'll be able to have more negotiation power. And Brandon Aiyuk inevitably comes back to us and realizes that he doesn't want to play for the Browns. He doesn't want to play for the Patriots. He wants to play for a winning team, you know, and he wants money. Obviously, he wants money, but he's getting a decent bit of money still. It's his 5th-year option. Like, it's still like $17 million or something crazy like that, right? Like, Brandon Aiyuk, 5th-year option. It's still like $17 million. Okay, $14 million. He deserves a little bit more than that. But does he really deserve the $30 million that he's searching for? I still don't really think so. A lot of his production last year is going to come from just how effective the San Francisco 49ers scheme is at getting people open. Again, super, super productive season. 1,342 receiving yards. 7 receiving touchdowns off of only 75 receptions. He was 2nd in yards per reception, 2nd in yards per target, 2nd in EPA, 4th in QB rating per target, 4th in fantasy points per target, 3rd in yards per route run. I mean, I really could go on and on. But again, a lot of it's going to be part of the system. A lot of it's going to be part of, there being so many weapons on the team. Like, I don't think if he gets 105 targets and 75 receptions on the Steelers, he's getting 1,342 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's not happening, right? Like, he needs more targets wherever he goes. And so it's just, it's very hard for any NFL team to look at Brandon Aiyuk and say, okay, we believe you're worth a first-round pick. Sure. All right, we also believe you're worth paying $30 million right now and extending. And that's a lot. That's a lot to give up for a player, especially in the Patriots sense, where that first-round pick could be so high, and they just invested in 2 rookie wide receivers that are actually making some noise at camp. It makes no sense for the Patriots. I'm gonna be honest here. If it involves a first-round pick, if they can somehow get around that, then it can make some sense. But I really don't see it happening. Even with the Patriots having, I'm sure, a ton of cap space. I'll get the actual number for you here. They have $43 million right now in cap space, but that's not enough. This is, again, what Adam Schefter said in their tweet, or in his tweet. 2 parties have to come to terms here. It's not just the 49ers getting what they want in a trade, but it's also Brandon Aiyuk getting what he wants in a contract. So yes, he might be able to get the contract he wants from the Patriots, but are they really willing to pay the 49ers what they want? Probably not. Then on the inverse, I bet the Browns are able to get the 49ers what they want. Like I'm saying, Amari Cooper plus is pretty enticing, especially to the 49ers who already probably believe that this is their last shot with Brandon Aiyuk. Getting a 1-year rental of Amari Cooper is really nothing to scoff at, especially if they're getting draft picks on top of it. But as I mentioned, they only have $29.6 million. So that's close to what Brandon Aiyuk wants, but not quite there. So they've got to figure out a contract. There are just so many things that have to be figured out for this to happen that I, again, just don't think it'll happen. Like, if it is, at this point, going off what I've seen or what is out there, the Browns makes the most sense out of the 2 trade options, but still what makes the most sense is he's a San Francisco 49er. If he's traded, I'm feeling the Browns. I just don't think he's traded. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've got to hear some more substance. I want to see what some of these trade offers are. And, I just want to see it happen at this point. I'm really tired of speculating on the situation. It's really exhausting. Brandon Aiyuk is pissing me off. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, just play ball. Just play ball, or just, I don't know, 49ers give him a little bit more money. Like, I feel like what are the 49ers cap space? And this is, of course, like, no, they don't. The 49ers have $52 million in cap space, and they're doing this shit right now. Just whatever. I don't understand this situation. I really don't, apparently. Just pay the man. If instead of 14, maybe just give him 23. Give him 23 for the year, 24 for the year, 25 for the year, and then figure it out. I don't know. There's got to be some resolution. There will be something. I'm going to go with a raise for him this year. I'm going to go with a raise on the San Francisco 49ers. I did not realize they had $52 million in cap space right now. That is ridiculous, San Francisco. Come on now. You have more cap space than the Patriots have right now. Like, what is this? Oh, my God. What a hilarious development. Anyway, Hater Maker, you're right. His peak value is with the 49ers. He's not ever going to be – he's not a true alpha. I'm going to say it. He's not a true alpha. He's good. He's a good wide receiver. But is he Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown? Ain't no way in hell is he that. So I don't get it. I don't get why he's asking for so much. I don't understand why the 49ers can't just give him a little bit more, I guess. And then I don't understand what the Patriots would be doing if they're actually trying to trade for him. That does not solve any issues at all. There's probably a good enough wide receiver they can draft next year. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not buying into the Patriots. If a trade is to happen, I like the Browns. I think that makes sense. Amari Cooper plus, I think, makes sense for both sides. But I still think it makes more sense for him to just be on the 49ers. So I'm just going to leave it at that, guys. I know I didn't really give you an answer, but I just wanted to talk about how we don't know anything. No one knows anything. Don't look at these tweets and just think it's happening. At the very least, I'll leave you with this. Sell the fuck out of Brandon Aiyuk. It just doesn't matter. His value is so high right now, even with this, all of this uncertainty. And I like BTTJ, who's sometimes in the chat here. He calls the wide receiver like kind of 24 on the super tier. I tried to trade with him once, and that's what he said. And I like that term a lot. You can get so much for Brandon Aiyuk. You could just downgrade him, tier down from him, and get a better, or not a better, a similar productive wide receiver, one with maybe even a higher ceiling, and just get some nice cherries on top and not take on this risk. There's really no point. Because if he goes to the Browns, he's going to suck. If he goes to the Patriots, he's going to suck. If he goes to the Steelers, he's going to suck. If he goes to the Commanders, he's probably going to suck too. Like, there's no, like, where you want him is the San Francisco 49ers. And spoiler alert, his value is higher than where he produced last year. It just is, right? Valued around the wide receiver 12, wide receiver 13, finishes wide receiver 16. Like, why are we doing this? It really makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. It hasn't all off season. Get him off your rosters. Get him off your rosters. Just don't even worry about it. So that's that. I know not true updates, but that, I mean, I don't know. Like, you can't really wrap your head around a situation that doesn't have facts. So it's just tough. But we do have some facts with Jordan Addison. And that is an arraignment has been scheduled for his asleep at the wheel incident. And so what we're going to do, instead of me doing legal research, we're just going to go to an actual lawyer here. We're going to go over to Drew Davenport, who does a ton of great legal updates on Twitter. Highly recommend going to subscribe to him. That is Drew Davenport FF. And he breaks it down for us. Why do I not follow him? I now follow him. I thought I did. I must have just been following him from the Roto Underworld account. But anyway, sorry, Drew. I promise I like your work. But anyway, so basically here's what he's going to say. That with the charges filed in the Jordan Addison case, there's one huge development that's going to impact his 2024 season. Let's check it out. The news broke today that charges are in for the Vikings' second-year receiver after his arrest for falling asleep on a public roadway while allegedly impaired. He's been charged with violations and of these numbers. Check it out. VC 23152 A and B. And those are DUI sections. The maximum possible punishment is 6 months in jail. However, I don't see Addison spending any time behind bars for this case. If you want to see my previous thread on where I broke down the legal issues, it's right here. Go check that out. I did make one mistake that I'd like to point out from that previous thread. I indicated that I thought the most up-to-date NFL policy on this issue, but I was mistaken because I kept getting the personal conduct policy in my search instead of the substance abuse policy. The substance abuse policy does have a presumption of a 3-game suspension with this type of case. Those 3 games would come if there are no aggravating circumstances. But the truly big development today is that we now have not only the charges, but the next court date. And this will clear a couple things up. Absent a prior involvement in the NFL's substance abuse program, Addison does not appear to have any of the aggravating circumstances that would lead to more than a 3-game suspension. However, there are a lot of people speaking uncertainties about the 3 games. I'm not sure he gets all of that yet. I'd like to see a police report or hear some evidence before I come to that conclusion. The biggest development is that I've checked the docket and confirmed that Addison's first court date is October 7th. That's for his arraignment. For those who don't know, the arraignment is where the defendant enters their initial plea. The fact that the arraignment is 2 months away might be normal in LA, but for most courts, that's a long way off. And having said that, I'd be shocked if Addison handles the case this season. The October 7th date won't technically happen as he'll hire counsel and plead not guilty. The case then gets set for pretrial or possibly a motion to suppress. Either way, this timetable is exceedingly slow, and I'm firmly of the belief that Addison won't face a suspension this year. I'm not going to go all in on this opinion as there are things that can change in this timeline, like a plea negotiation or the not guilty plea being entered in advance of October 7th. But I will say that there is no reason for Addison's camp for this to want this to go quickly. Basically, that's it. He is just leaving it there. Go follow Drew Davenport if you want some updates on the situation. One thing I would like to add is from the 32 beat writers. They have quote tweeted an article that says he has an October 7th appearance in Los Angeles to be arraigned and enter his plea. If he's convicted or pleads guilty, he could face up to 6 months in jail, pay fines up to $2,000, or lose his driver's license for up to 6 months. So what's the easiest way to say, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL doesn't care about legal issues, especially if no one's been hurt. The best way to look at this is nothing's going to happen to Jordan Addison. It does not matter. He's going to be playing football this year. He's going to be playing football next year. I would honestly be surprised if he's suspended at all. He's damn sure not going to get any jail time. If he's convicted or pleads guilty, so we'll just go with worst case scenario, he goes and pleads guilty. 6 months in jail, fines, or lose the driver's license. So we can already say he's not going any jail time. He'll pay those fines. He's just going to pay the fines of only up to $2,000. You realize he sneezes away $2,000 probably on a daily basis. Like, this is nothing to him at all. Nothing's going to happen. He's going to pay those fines. This will be settled. And next summer, probably, the NFL is going to look at it and fine him probably some more. I really doubt there's a suspension for this. No one was hurt. I know this is his second offense, but no one was hurt at his first offense. Like, it's just, I think he's fine. I really do. Now, do I want him on my fantasy football team? Not really. Like, with players like this that clearly have no remorse or able to learn from their past mistakes, they're not going to get better overnight. And so I really do think that Jordan Addison is more of a head case than we think or hope. Like, obviously, I wish him the best and want him to recover and realize his mistakes and get better. But to do this twice, especially days after one of your teammates dies from a very, very similar incident, you would just think you'd have some sort of cognitive ability. And for him showing he doesn't, I just don't want that on my team. I mean, he could do this again and die. He could do this again and end up in jail like Henry Ruggs, or he could do this again and actually get suspended. There are just so many bad situations where you don't need it, especially on a Vikings team where Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson are there. Like, he really is third in the pecking order. And yes, it's pretty productive when injuries go his way. And even outside of that, he's a decent flex option. But right now, he's the top 30 wide receiver in Dynasty. You can get Jackson Smith-Njigba. You can get Zay Flowers if you want a guy the same age as him. You could down tier for some of the rookie wide receivers from this class and get something on top. Like, there are just so many options. You don't need Jordan Addison on your dynasty team. You really don't. Is he going to get suspended? Probably not, but I don't think that matters for my analysis. This is a player I've been fading anyway, just because you have the quarterback uncertainty, and then you just have two absolute dogs ahead of you. There's just no point. Like, there are just better values right now at his cost where I don't understand accepting the risk of him being a liability in real life, because liabilities in real life don't generally last long in this league, being blunt. So unfortunately, I don't want him on my team, but fortunately, if he is on your team, I wouldn't panic. With this being an arraignment on October 7th, that means that, he's going to go in, he's going to make his plea, and then next year there'll be the actual court date. So I saw a bunch of tweets saying that, this is his actual court date. Like, this is when it'll be settled. That is not true. I do want to say that this is just an arraignment. This is where the plea is entered. And I liked a lot of what Drew Davenport said, where his lawyer will just be there to give the plea. He won't even be there. Although I do believe that's during the Vikings bye week. If my math is mathing, it's around that time. So he might be able to be there, but he doesn't have to be. Your lawyer could be there for you. So, like, it's really a non-story right now, similar to the Rashee Rice situation. We already know the NFL moves slowly, and they're going to move even slower when no one was hurt, right? And it was just he fell asleep at the wheel. Yes, of course, bad. You don't want to do that. But to the NFL, they don't care. They don't care. They do not care. Deshaun Watson is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, that show us all for any future case that the only way someone's going to get in trouble is if they kill someone. And that's what happened with Henry Ruggs, unfortunately. And even then, I do believe he's able to be out before he turns 30. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear some Henry Ruggs like hype in a couple years once he's released from jail. Like, that's just how the NFL works. So anyway, don't panic if you own him, but do sell him. Like don't sell low. Maybe sell slightly low. Like, you can take a loss probably, but like still get at least close to value, like get a younger receiver with a cherry on top, maybe a JMO. Like, I think that would be really fun. Or like I said, maybe see what you could do for Zay Flowers or Jackson Smith-Njigba. Those are probably the two options I'd be looking at. So those are the two kind of big news stories. There are some depth charts that have come out. They're all unofficial. And I've got to be honest with you, they don't mean a damn thing. But there are at least some takeaways. So we'll just kind of briefly go through some of these. We'll start with the Raiders depth chart. What's interesting to note here is they actually released their depth chart in 12 personnel. They listed it with 2 starting tight ends, Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers. That is a screaming signal of what they plan to do this year. We heard reports yesterday that they were already doing 2 tight end sets at training camp. Now we see them literally. They are literally releasing their first depth chart in 12 personnel. That is wild. That is wild. So I think that is at least important to note, that we do know for a fact they really do want to utilize both Bowers and Mayer. So just keep that in mind. The Packers depth chart, I wrote that I have no takeaways, but I'll just go ahead and kind of read this out to you. Oh, also on the Raiders, sorry. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are both listed as starting quarterbacks, so that competition is still very much underway. And then Alexander Mattison is listed as the RB2 over Dylan Law, but again, that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean a damn thing. It's August, early August even, still plenty of preseason action, and Alexander Madison's bad at football. So to the Packers depth chart, again, really nothing to note here at all. It is exactly as you would expect. Marshawn Lloyd is RB3 behind A.J. Dillon, but again, early August preseason. And even if he is the RB3, that doesn't really mean much. Like, he could be the RB3, but still come in on third downs, and A.J. Dillon ahead of him on the depth chart, using quotes. But that's only because, maybe he gets some more of the shorter yardage stuff. Either way, not a big deal. Dontavian wakes up back up also as expected. Like, there's really nothing to take away here at all. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, the starters. Josh Jacobs, RB1. Jordan Love, of course, the starting quarterback. Luke Musgrave, the starting tight end. Nothing to take away there. The Cardinals depth chart, not too much to take away here as well. But we did mention a couple weeks ago that there was some competition for the RB2, actually. Trey Benson, believe it or not, is the RB2 already, which is pretty good news. Like, I know I'm saying that unofficial depth charts don't mean a lot because generally, like, they change. But to see the rookie already establish himself as the RB2, that's all you need to hear. That's all you need to hear. He's not going to lose it. Like, where it doesn't matter is when they're like RB3, wide receiver 2. Like, yes, they're going to have to move up the depth chart. But if they've already done it, that means a lot. Like, that's actually a signal if they've already done it. So I think that's some pretty cool news to see that Trey Benson is already the RB2. Otherwise, no big news here. Zay Jones is the backup slot receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch, and Michael Wilson are the starters so far. Dolphins depth chart, I actually did think was interesting. They listed their offense, not necessarily 12 personnel, but 13 starters. They listed actually 2 starting running backs, Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, which was interesting. And they listed a starting fullback, Alec Ingold. That's just going to be, situation dependent. But there were 2 teams that listed 2 running backs on their depth chart. Like, it isn't like, here, I'm just going to share my screen to show you what I mean by this. It isn't like some depth charts have 2 starting running backs listed. Literally for this one, it has 2 RB positions. So I just thought that was interesting. Like, I'm going to zoom in here. It will not let me zoom in. Sorry, guys. But basically, you can kind of see my mouse on it. There are 2 separate lines or rows, if you will, for running backs. So 6 total running backs are listed here, but both Achane and Raheem Mostert are listed as RB1s, which I think does signify, again, as we already knew, that they want to use a committee here. There's not a true alpha in the running back room. They have a bunch of explosive running backs, and they're all going to get their hand on the ball. One thing that was kind of interesting, Durham Smythe is listed as the starting tight end over Jonnu Smith. That's, of course, probably going to happen because he was on the team last year, but still interesting to know. As you know, Jonnu Smith was brought in. He's got really good athleticism, and a lot of us were taking shots on him. Again, doesn't mean too much, especially since he's new to the team. Like, he has a ton of chance to be able to earn that tight end 1 spot, especially since Durham Smythe wasn't totally productive last year, but still something to note. Also, Braxton Berrios is still listed as the kick and punt returners here, in case you were wondering. But interestingly enough, Devon Achane is the second kick returner. So I did want to keep our notes on the kick returner position because I did think that there was going to be some possibility that teams would try to just use playmakers as their kick returners as opposed to just special teams players that have done it before. So it was cool to see Devon Achane there. Interesting to see if he can make a push, which I'm sure he could. Next up, we have the Saints. Again, a lot of these depth charts, not too much to take away from here, but Jamal Williams is listed as the kick returner. So that's kind of interesting behind Rashid Shaheed. So, both of them maybe could get some notes. It's just cool to see, as we talked about when this was when this rule was announced. Bill Belichick actually came out and said that he thinks size will be the biggest factor for kick returners. So it's kind of cool to see the Saints leaning into that and making Jamal Williams the backup behind Rashid Shaheed. But tight end room, Foster Moreau listed as the starter with Juwan Johnson still out. Jamal Williams listed as the RB2 ahead of Kendre Miller, and then Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, the 2 starting receivers, with Cedric Wilson and A.T. Perry behind them. Also interesting to note, they do have a fullback as well. His name is Adam Prentice, in case you were wondering. So it looks like the Saints might be a bit more old school this year. Seahawks depth chart, I had absolutely no takeaways when I wrote it down. I wrote like if I had takeaways on my show sheet. I had no takeaways, but I'll at least take a look at it just in case. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, the starting wide receivers. Noah Fant, the starting tight end. Kenneth Walker, the starting running back. Kick returner, Laviska Shenault in D. Eskridge. So keep your name on that, Laviska Shenault. We might have a little bit more of a resurgence from him as a kick returner. Giants depth chart, again, no real takeaways, but let's go ahead and take a look at this bad boy. Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors listed as the starting wide receivers, with Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton listed next to each other as the wide receiver 3, which suggests that Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton are probably going to rotate. Jalen Hyatt in for explosive plays, Darius Slayton in for like third downs maybe. I don't know. We'll see how that develops. Eric Gray listed as the RB2 with Tyrone Tracy and Dante Miller behind him. Again, doesn't mean too much. Like they're probably going to rise up this depth chart. And Theo Johnson listed as the tight end 4 right now. But everything we're hearing out of training camp is that he's actually like the tight end 1, if not tight end 1B. So I'm sure he'll jump up this as well. Again, not too much to note from these things, but still at least important to look at them. Their kick returner is Gunnar Olszewski right now. Commanders depth chart. Jaden Daniels is already listed as the starting quarterback, so that's very good news. And then this is the other team, similar to the Dolphins, where they actually list 2 running backs. Again, not like they're splitting the RB1, but that genuinely they've listed 2 running back rows on their depth charts. So Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. Like I've been saying, I really do think there's a really big opportunity for both of these guys to at least perform at their ADP, but I would expect them to outperform them, especially in PPR leagues. Both of them look really decent, and I think they're going to rely on that run game. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson listed as the starters. Olamide Zaccheaus has been listed as the slot receiver with Luke McCaffrey behind him. Again, plenty of opportunity for him to earn that. And then the kick returner, a guy I've never heard of, so we'll see how this develops. Noah Igbinogine, maybe a defender. I have no idea who that is. But so just to kind of, I guess, bring home the point that we don't know who the kick returners really are. Browns depth chart, the only note I had here is that Nick Chubb is actually listed as the RB1 ahead of Jerome Ford, despite not being there and despite being injured. I think that kind of signals how good they feel about Nick Chubb in his recovery. But he does have a parentheses around him, which does mean he's injured. But that does show that when he's back, he's going to be the starter. Again, though, I do expect a committee, even when Nick Chubb is back. I would be shocked if he gets bell cow usage out the gate. Otherwise, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, those are your starting receivers. The kick returner right now, very interesting. However, Nyheim Hines is also listed in parentheses, so it's probably him whenever he comes back. Nyheim Hines, an interesting pickup for Scott Fishbowl because he's pretty damn good at it. Titans depth chart, the big takeaway here, as expected, as mentioned a million times on this show, there's no true starting running back. Both Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard are listed as the RB1 next to each other. This isn't like the Dolphins and Commanders where there's 2 rows. It's 1 row, and they both split the RB1 column. So look for them to be basically interchangeable. Again, I think Tony Pollard will end up having more opportunity share just because he's a little bit better of a runner. But I still think they're both going to be used handsomely. Another interesting usage of that thing is the tight end. Chig Okonkwo and Josh Wiley are listed as tight end 1s together. So I'm very curious to see how that develops. The way I'm going to read into it is that Josh Wiley's kind of the starting blocking tight end, whereas Chig is the starting receiving tight end, which makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, Calvin Ridley, D-Hop, Tyler Boyd, those are your starter receivers. And the kick returner right now is Tyjae Spears. So that is awesome news for me, who took him in Scott Fishbowl, along with Tony Pollard. I got a vote. And then the Jets depth chart is the last one I listed. But while I pull that up, Nick Take Jake says the Bengals have listed Yosefis as the starting wide receiver 3. I like that. I think he's done enough to actually solidify himself as that. That one I think could actually be noteworthy. The Jets tight end right now is listed as Jeremy Ruckert and Tyler Conklin. So their depth chart also came out as 12 personnel. Interesting to keep note of for sure. Zach Kuntz is the backup. Then the starting receivers are Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, and Xavier Gibson. That makes sense based on what we're hearing from training camp, but Malachi Corley will definitely take that wide receiver 3 role once he gets healthy. Braylon Allen is officially the RB2, and in fact, Israel Abanikanda has fallen down to RB4, which is not good news, given he was already on the team. So that is the Jets as well. And let me go ahead and look at their kick returner. It's looking like Xavier Gibson, which of course makes sense. That was one of the ones that we all pretty much expected. So that's all I've got for you guys. Really, again, not too much to look into, but there are at least a couple interesting things to note. So again, trade Brandon Aiyuk in Dynasty, but I'm thinking he'll be a 49er. If he's traded, I like the Browns potential more. That makes more sense to me, but I still think he'll be a 49er. Trade Jordan Addison in Dynasty as well. Just get him off your roster. He's a knucklehead. Unofficial depth charts are out. Don't overreact to them. And Ryan Flournoy has the pads on. So do we have any questions? I'll pop into the chat real quick and check this out. Donald asks if Jack is still with Player Profiler. Unfortunately, he is not, but he's still doing a lot of great stuff with the Believe Network for the Detroit Lions. And of course, go follow him on Twitter. Still bringing out tons of great content. He's still doing his depth chart reviews and all that good stuff. But no, the Player Profiler news is now run by the News Desk team. And unfortunately, Jack went on his own way, but still incredible guy. Highly recommend following him. Love myself some Jack Kavanaugh action. Yes, James, rookie running backs are almost never listed as starters or direct backups. It's just supposed to motivate people. And that's why, yes, I said a lot of them don't matter. But it is interesting to note that Trey Benson is already the RB2. I think that shows a lot. Aiyuk needs to be a Charger to enter the Hall of Fame. I like that. I like that a lot. Cool. I don't actually see any questions, really. So, Jameson Williams over Aiyuk. Let's go, Brandon. Oh, Bach, actually, what should I do special for my 20th year in my fantasy draft home league? Bring in a fantasy pro to make fun of our picks. That would be pretty fun. Maybe I could make fun of your draft or something. You guys should definitely do a live draft though. Go party or something. I think that'd be fun. Cool. That should do it. Tomorrow, tune in as I'm gonna try lemon juice in my coffee. I think. Malik Neighbors' injury, potentially. We'll see. Walked off the sideline seems like good news. So, yes. Donald says, hoping for a Wake and Take Fantasy Bowl. We did start the 32-team Dynasty League. I guess I can figure out something for a redraft. Maybe just a best ball. I don't know how much I want to manage more leagues right now, but a best ball league could be pretty fun to get you guys into it. So let me put that in my notes as well. Best ball league. Okay. Would I trade Aiyuk for Puka right now? Yes, 1,000,000% yes. If you can do that 1-for-1, 1,000,000% get Puka over Aiyuk 1,000,000 times. Do that, please. So thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you're tuned in tomorrow for some more NFL fantasy football news. You all have a terrific Tuesday, a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.